So who here has ever had somebody that did not like them? Raise your hand. Now imagine you're sitting there next to that person and you have to wash their feet. So Jesus knew that Judas was going to betray him. And what did he do? He broke bread, he ate with him, and he washed his feet. Talk about humble. We're looking at week 3 now. So to get you to know what the whole sermon series is about, living the Jesus way. And we're looking today at the low places. So for 2 weeks, we've been standing on the banks of the river that carves through the mountains, through the valleys, and we're talking about getting our feet wet. Week 1 was about the jump, about jumping in, the stubborn dog-like determination to stop overthinking and just get in the water. Week 2 was about finding the chair, that quiet place where we put our lives under new management and learn to breathe in grace so we don't drown in the chaos of life. Today we're talking about the direction the river is usually moving. A river has a very specific personality. It's not a mountain climber trying to get to the highest peak. A river is very humble. It always heads for the lowest grounds. It seeks out the cracks, the valleys, and the dry, empty spaces. So if you want to follow the living the Jesus way idea, you have to understand the gravity of grace. God's love does not flow up toward the powerful or the rich. It flows down. It flows toward the hurting, the forgotten, the broken. So this morning we're talking about those low places. We're moving from the sofa of the Spirit to the pavements of the people. We were talking in Bible study this morning, Sunday school, about what it looks like to follow Jesus, about what is different about following Jesus and following the world. You know, between Jesus and the Pharisees and the Sadducees. In the kingdom of God, the only way to go all in is to be willing to go as low as you can, to go all down. So we have to be careful. Because today, all around the world, there are grand spectacles of religious performances, a messy mix of faith with corrupt power that tells us we have to win, we have to climb, we have to do all of this to be relevant. And it looks more like a parade than a Galilean walk. But while the world is looking for flashy, we're gathering around breakfast tables. We're gathering around yard sale tables. We're gathering around dinner tables. We're meeting in buildings like this, a place not for a grand performance, but for real, everyday community life. The fact that our church connection opens this building to be a shared home for the neighborhood means we're already learning how to stoop. It is amazing how even a small church, everything that we're doing in the communities, we aren't abandoning our roots when we go into our communities. We're setting them on fire. See, church was never supposed to be a place where somebody's got to hide their brokenness, hide the truth of their condition. We should be able to come in here and say, I'm not okay today. I'm in pain. I drank myself to sleep last night. I wanted to feel safe. If we can't say that here in this building, then we've fallen for a fake version of Jesus. A version that lets us live however we want while our souls wither and dry up. If you want to know what the Jesus way looks like in the flesh, look at Philippians 2. It's a roadmap for a journey that goes in reverse. Paul tells us that Jesus, even though he was God, he was fully man, but he was fully God. He didn't use that position to his own advantage. Instead, he emptied himself. Jesus didn't just pick up a towel. He actively rejected the corrupt ladder-climbing systems of his day. Stooping isn't just a quiet posture. It's a direct prophetic protest against a culture that tramples the poor, tramples the weak, tramples the marginalized in our communities. He traded a throne for a manger. He didn't come to add to his status. He came to subtract it until all that was left was love. Then let's look at John 13. The Bible says Jesus knew the Father had put everything under his power, even the Sabbath. Think about what you could do with absolute power. You could settle every score, fix every political problem. Imagine how that would be if we fixed every political problem like that. My gosh. But what does Jesus do? He gets up. He wraps a towel around his waist. Gets on the floor to wash dirty feet. Imagine if we had a foot washing right here, right now. I saw the panic in somebody's eyes. I'm not going to say who. Maybe somebody's a little bit overdue for a pedi. This is the sovereignty of the towel. Jesus proves that the higher you are in God's kingdom, the lower you are willing to stoop. It's like the theology of a dog. Yeah, I'm going to bring Ziva back up again. So if you want a picture of this, just watch a dog. A dog's entire life is lived from the view from the floor. They don't have an ego. They are looking for proximity to their master. My dog Ziva is a master at this. When I go over to Mom and Dad's house, she sleeps on the edge of their sofa. She's got her head up on the arm, and she watches everything everybody's doing. And when she's over there at their house, that's Dad's dog. But when she's over at my house, she's my dog. And she's just happy to sleep on my feet or at the bottom of the chair. And as she's on the sofa, maybe. When I come home carrying the weight of the day, she doesn't care about my titles. She doesn't care about my schedule. She doesn't care about any of that. She just drops her head down, circles tight on the floor, and leans her full weight against my legs. Dogs have no social friction. They don't feel too good for certain tasks or too clean for certain neighborhoods. When a dog wants to show you love, they stoop. And if you don't have a dog, maybe you felt this with when a small child reaches up. Now I remember back when I was doing the after-school program at Holy Cross, and I'd walk in late, and I'd have 10 or 15 kids run up to me and jump on me and be like, Pastor, let me tell you about my day. We got all day. Did you hear about the score I got? Let's hear. Let's talk about it. When a dog wants to show you love, they stoop. You know, imagine when a child reaches up without a care for your titles, or when a true friend simply sits on the floor of your mess without trying to fix you. Lowering yourself increases connection. You can't wash a foot from a standing position. You have to stoop. You have to stoop. So where is this river of grace that's heading in our communities? It's heading towards the neighborhoods in our communities where houses are crumbling. The heavy coal trains rumbling through. It's headed toward the dark corners where the opioid crisis isn't just a headline. It's active every day. It's the empty chair at the dinner table. It's the death at the prison. The empty storefronts along our streets and the isolation of our ridges aren't accidents. They're the shadows left behind by a world that only cares about making money and moves on when the profit runs out. How many businesses have left our communities? When we follow the river into these streets, we stand against systems that tell our neighbors that they don't matter because the industry has moved on. So think about it. Acts 17. For 70 years, the church stayed on the high ground, hoping people would climb up to find us. But in Acts 17, Paul drops a tactical truth bomb. He says that God who made the world doesn't live in shrines. He doesn't live in buildings built by human hands. God placed us in these specific locations, in this specific time, so the people would reach out and find Him. God is not trapped in a sanctuary. He's already out there on the pavement, in third spaces like local diners or fishing holes or diners. And when these low places, when we go to them, we don't go to them as heroes who fix things. We go to them as saints who listen. Just simply be in proximity and listen. We have to ask a hard question. Here's a question to ask yourselves. Do you actually love your communities? Do you love them enough to leave our pews and go to them? Do we cry for our communities? Or are we content to stay up on the dry bank where it's safe so our feet don't get wet while our neighbors are drowning in the valley? Genuine love does not stay rooted in the pews. It moves. In addition to the holiday coming up, today's also Pentecost Sunday. And on that first Pentecost, the fire of God didn't fall on a building. It didn't fall on a building. It fell on a unified group of ordinary people. It drove them out of their safe room and straight onto the pavement to speak the truth. The plain, everyday language of the people on the street. Doesn't actually matter where we meet. You can have a crappy little house church. The building or the location is not important. It's not the point. What matters are the principles of what happens when we are together. What are we like? When we gather, do we walk away deeply in love with the person that is Jesus? And are we truly deeply in love with each other? Because Jesus says that if we become perfectly one, the world will finally believe the truth. They'll see our oneness and they'll say, wow, the Father really did send Jesus. And God really loves those people just like He loves His own Son. And that's the ticket. We are just trying to gather together and say, let's make sure we are falling deeply in love with Him and deeply in love with one another. Let's turn to somebody next to you. Right now, turn around, face somebody next to you. Say, I love you. Why does that make everybody giggle every time it's done?
Love you, Tammy.
I'm feeling the love. Jesus promises that is what is going to reach the world. A Jesus revolution doesn't look like a political rally. It looks like learning our neighbors' names on the street where we've lived for 50 years but never spoken across a fence. It looks like inviting a single parent over for dinner because you know they're drowning in the not enoughs. It looks like mentoring a young person who feels like their only way out of these mountains is to leave everything behind. How many times have we seen that? I'm not going to tell you that living just any kind of way is okay, because that does not work. You can't treat people however you want. Say whatever you want. Call yourself a believer. The issue is the state of your soul. Don't let another person be sent to hell because you are too busy practicing and protecting your hero image to ask them, what is your story? How'd you get here? What happened? In this revolution, the true saints are the ones who have been through the fire. If you want to learn how to live all in, talk to the men and women in our communities trying just simply to find hope. They are the professors in this lab that we're in. They have done the hard work of surrender that many of us are still too proud to try. You'd be surprised how many people that sit in a church pew end up going to hell. Because while they were there was no proximity to the Father. There was no transition, no transformation. They've done the hard work of surrender that many of us still find that we're too proud to do. We aren't their teachers when we go out to the world. We're their fellow travelers, and maybe the kingdom still spreads table by table. So when you've spent time in the chair, breathing in grace, you carry that ziva that we mentioned last week. You don't have to shout. You don't have to have a 10-point plan. You just have to be a person who is enough to hear the pain of another. When you stoop to help a neighbor, you are clearing the channel for the seventh generation. You're showing the kids in our community that church isn't a dry museum of old rules. One of the things we talked about in Bible study today was, how is Jesus different than the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the leaders of the religion at the time? They imposed rules, man-made rules upon rules upon rules. So you had to earn your way to freedom, to salvation. And Jesus said He is the way. You're showing the kids that in our community that the church isn't a dry museum of old man-made rules, but a living river that isn't afraid of the mud or the dark. I want to see our grandchildren, I want to see a generation that was home with God, even when so we talked about how people have stopped coming to church. And I want to see a world, I want to see our grandkids and our great-grandkids. I want to see generation after generation that was at home with God even when the economy was tough and the world was loud. And if we want them to follow Jesus, they need to see us creating spaces where lonely people, where the addicts and the prostitutes and the convicts, where they belong before they ever behave. So this week, our laboratory of grace, it's called the Stoop. Some of y'all might need to... Who here has a cane today? Raise your hand. Dad, raise your hand. Those things aren't just for hitting people, Dad. You need them to help you stoop sometimes. Keep doing your 5 minutes in the chair, having grace and praying and that outward exhale, and then add another outward exhale. Identify a low place. Identify a low place in our community. We have way too many of them. place where there's water is muddy and our hills and our hollows. Find a neighbor whose porch light is always off, or the bridge where you go see people walking with nowhere to go. Don't just go alone. Grab a couple people. Grab a couple people from this room. You know each other. And form a tiny listening team over time. Go to that place together. Don't go with a prepackaged program, an easy tracking sheet, or an answer. Go to discover how to bring a simple living slice of God's love right there on the diner floor. Just sit and listen. And while you're there, pray. Pray something like this. Pray, in this little place, there's room for you. In this little place, there is rest for you. In the deep, there is a future for us. So this week, when you stoop, give something up. Give up your hero schedule, your busyness. Give up the need to have an easy answer. Trade in your right to be right for the will to be present. That is the heart of the Jesus way. And so today the invitation is to jump into the low places. And it is scary. It's scary to go down, especially in a region that has felt down for such a long time. But in the Jesus way, down is where the revolution, where it lives. It's where the river of grace pulls up to heal the broken. So don't be afraid of the low places in your own heart, the parts that feel not okay. God isn't looking for you to be perfect. He's not looking for your hero version. He's looking for the version of you willing to pick up a towel. So when you leave today, remember you're under new management. Stop the climbing and start stooping down. The river is moving, and there is plenty of room at the bottom. So let's all go down together. Let's bow our heads.